Hello, we're Rob and Martha Lind. We live on a Linda Organic Farm, which is located at the 3,200 foot elevation in what they call a Linda, technically in the city of MAUI. We are right on the edge of the MAUI Forest Preserve, which is a rainforest. And this year, with 5 days to go in the year, I have measured 85 plus inches of rain. So I guess we do qualify for a rainforest. But it makes for great condition for the growing of coffee. Every time it rains, it triggers a flower, and approximately 9 months later, you have a coffee cherry. So the reason I came here, I guess, and got the ag lot to begin with, which are all 2 acres in our subdivision here, was I had a large garden where I lived in Alameda previously for 34 years. So this gives us an opportunity to grow anything we want at practically any time of the year. Our temperatures only get down to about 40 degrees, which means it would be a good thing to grow coffee here. I spent about 2 to 3 months looking for a pulper to buy when people started handing me beans, because I found the hand crank method to be kind of tedious, plus I had to drive to somebody's house and then to somebody else's house to give them beans. So I went on the internet and finally found what was reputed to be the best pulper in the world, at least by the company that makes them. It's made by a company called Ingisec, and it's a Gaviota 300. They make 3 larger sizes as well, and what the 300 indicates is the number of kilograms that will pulp per hour. Basically, and why I like the machine is that it has a hopper on top that has a separate drive chain to it that brings the cherries in sideways. There's a small auger that turns and it brings them in and then drops them. So it's a little bit of a gentler process than the conventional pulpers, where all the pulp is loaded directly on top and there's a lot of pressure going right into the machine, and you can damage the beans, which I have seen done on other pulpers. The other reason I like it is that the drum that turns and presses up against this plate, causing the beans to squeeze out of the cherry, is that this is a solid drum of aluminum dioxide, and basically it's a raised diamond pattern with the backside of the diamond shaved off. So rather than, as most conventional pulpers, they have a piece of flat metal that they have punctured with small, what I call like a cheese grater shape to it. And what happens is those will actually grab the beans and take chips out of them, and then you have to spend a lot of time digging out the little chips of beans with a brush. So you can avoid that by having a solid surface. And this is a water process. It's the normal way of making coffee in Hawaii, and at least on Maui. It's where you soak the beans for 24 hours or less, usually, in water after taking the skin off. And about 18 hours later, the microbes on the outside of the cherries cause the material that's on the outside of the cherry, called mucilage, to ferment. It's about 70% sugar and 30% pectin. So these beans have been sitting in water till they were done. I rinse them. I take floaters off because they have low density and they don't make very good coffee. But another trick is to put them back in fresh water after they've actually been completed and are ready to dry, and they refer to that as the Kenyan process, which involves putting them back in fresh water for a period of time, which can vary from 24 to 72 hours generally. So that's what I've done with these beans. These beans were rinsed 3 days ago and then put back in fresh water 2 more times, which is emulating the style that was used by the winner of this year's coffee competition, where he took red Bourbon cherries and then put them back in water after they were fermented, and continued to put them in water 2 continuous times for 15 hours each. Okay. So here's an example of the parchment coffee that was done by the water process. And they suggest that you roast them approximately 3 times a day to give them good exposure to the sunlight. One important thing is you don't want to put them in direct sunlight for 2 days, otherwise the parchment is very fragile and will tend to crack. So I use an obscured sheet of Lexan on the first 2 days, and after that I could put a clear sheet, which actually speeds up the drying process. Okay, and now one more. All right, in addition to the water process, I make what is called naturals. This is when you take the biggest, reddest cherries. I try to get them without stems, I wash them and take the floaters off so there's no low density cherries in there because you don't get a chance to float the actual beans. Then I put them on in a food dehydrator for approximately 2 nights, and that gets enough moisture off of them that I'm able to put them out in the sun to finish them off. Ideally, you want to dry your coffee to below 12%. I personally go 10.5 to 11, as coffee is prone to reabsorb moisture after the fact, and anything above 12% would make it liable to be moldy, or turn moldy. So these naturals, just like the water process, they do take a little longer to dry, but they make for a coffee, because it's not water fermented, makes for a very fruity, low acid type of cup of coffee.